I'm Sophia Pike.
I'm Casey Stewart.
Matt Morgan.
I'm Dulce Hernandez.
And I'm Alex Holcomb.
Human conflict is a very common problem among all of us. You know, it's not just here, despite what some people think. It's all throughout America. But what we'll be talking about are some of the main issues we have, especially in Southern Texas, especially with immigration, sex trade, all this other stuff, which we'll be discussing later on. Some of the biggest issues with human conflict are just our differences, because we all have different characteristics. We're all different people. It's just part of being human, and that can lead to some really, really, really big problems, unfortunately.
So human conflict, I'm going to cut that out later. Anyways, we made sure to only conduct our research from the Texas region to give you all an incentive as to what type of conflict is happening in our local communities.
Human conflict is seen in all ages, but it is emphasized in the younger generations like ours.
Five different things that we can most, like influential in conflict. These points will include immigration, human trafficking, and the sex trade, religious conflict in Texas, LGBT rights, and finally, conclusion, the violation of the educational rights system.
One of the issues with human conflict starts with the Comprehensive Immigration Reform, or the CIR, we'll call it for short, that's basically just caused by a high amount of immigration, a lot of jobs get taken up, not to mention there's also a amount of labor related jobs that get taken up by a lot of immigrants. There are also many, many controversies as to whether or not the amount of immigrants we have are the cause of our crime rates, which from personal experience and from our sources, that's not necessarily true. Again, like I said, with sex trade and all that stuff, I mean, that's all just from being raised in a poor family or being raised in a terrible environment, and that's basically the way, because the way we turn out is dependent on how we're raised and what we do with our lives and just who we're surrounded by, and it's just really scary as to how that will be.
Okay, so I'm going to be talking about the human trafficking and sex trade, which goes along with Matt's topic, because a lot of immigrants coming into the U.S. are sex trafficked and are being sold into the sex trade. And just to give you an overview of what the human trafficking and sex trade is, human trafficking is known to be a form of modern day slavery. It could be simple as you getting in a relationship and your boyfriend starts making you have sex with his peers just to receive money. It's as simple as that. And then it goes into kidnapping and selling young women and men to other people to make them have sex with them. Just a few examples of human trafficking. In May 2013, a man who was an illegal alien was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for illegally smuggling and trafficking a 14-year-old Guatemalan girl to Tennessee for $2,000 and coercing her into having sex. He will be deported after his sentence here in the U.S. soil. Another man was sentenced to more than 15 years in prison for smuggling Guatemalan workers, including minors, and making them work 12-hour days. They were forced to live in cramped conditions, and they were made to pay off significant debt and cured by the man. So this is more of a human trafficking example. It does not just have to be for sex. You can be forced to work, and like it says, they're forced to live in disgusting conditions like animals. In September 2014, Charles Marquez was sentenced to life in federal prison for recruiting women in Mexico by placing an advertisement in Juarez for offering jobs in the United States. Once they were recruited, he harbored them into the motels and forced them into prostitution. He also worked with Martha Jimenez Sanchez, who faces up to 10 years for pleading guilty. She was also helping him with the transition. So a lot of these situations happen not just with one man or two men, but it can be families. And the women that are sex trafficked can be raised into, can be taught how to find other women and men to be sold to the sex trafficking business. People associate sex trade with foreign countries, especially in areas of Mexico, but this is not completely true, although a lot of immigrants from other countries in Mexico come in as sex trade slaves and stuff. Like I said earlier, you can be in a relationship with someone and then they can force you to have sex with someone so they can get paid. That is sex trade, that is human trafficking, that counts. And and it says here from an article that I read that human trafficking is known to be, on a global scale, the second largest criminal enterprise, and the United States is known to be a major destination country for this enterprise. So U.S. has a lot to do with the sex human trafficking. It's not just the foreign countries. So local problems, just to give you an incentive of what happens in Texas, there were two men who were accused. One of them was a volunteer at an independent school district at a middle school, and the other one was a worker at a high school, and they were both trafficking an underage student. And that happened in Dallas, Texas, which is very close to where we live in Corpus Christi. And that's just one example of the many that happen in our local communities. I've provided some charts from the National Human Trafficking Hotline. Between 2013 and 2015, human trafficking statistics show that they've remained relatively the same. Although they're high, they remained in like the same degree. And then when you go to 2016, it increases dramatically, almost twice as bad as the other years, as you can see. So basically, there's just going to keep being an increase of human trafficking incidents and reports. And I mean, there's no actual ways that they've stopped human trafficking unless you were caught. There's no way to stop it. And now Casey will talk about the religious beliefs and conflict in Texas.
Okay, so religious beliefs impact human health in a variety of ways based on their different religions, like how Catholics in wine, and how some religions are against certain types of alcohol or tobacco, and some religions are, that's a major part of them. It can go from blood pressure to psychological well-being, and some recent research indicates how people view their relationship with God can make a big difference in their health. And then in one of my sources, an experiment was recently conducted that informed how religion provides a protective influence with respect to a number of health-related outcomes. And it was for the Latinos in Texas, and South Texas more specifically. And it has examined its influence on patterns of alcohol and tobacco consumption among them in Texas. And then this happened in Victoria, Texas, maybe a month or two ago. A recent article by Jay Malowitz informs us about the intentional mosque fire in Victoria and how much it affected the town. One day, somebody went to the mosque and intentionally burned it down and then fled and still hasn't been caught. But the church was completely destroyed. It was devastating to a lot of families and churchgoers who attended the mosque. But the other churches in the area helped raise enough money to rebuild the mosque, all while welcoming the Muslims, mosque-goers into their churches on their own. And they raised, I think it was a few $100,000 on their own to help rebuild it their own. And so, as religious conflict can be a huge thing, a lot of people also help out. And it goes to show how kind and cruel the religious conflicts can be. And then with religion tying into LGBT rights, nearly 70 businessmen joined the Chambers of Commerce in letter opposing anti-transgender Texas bill. It is clear that the Texas legislature expects to take up religious refusal bills, anti-transgender legislation, and other discriminatory proposals. And this started because of conflicts in religion with, like, gays and how it's a sin, you'll be damned to hell, and a lot of different things. And now it's getting taken up with the Texas legislature, and now they're trying to make bills and laws that are either passing this or like refusing for these laws to ever happen. And now Dulce will be talking about the LGBT rights.
Like Casey said, our government officials in Texas have a different take, a more religious take on the LGBT community. Tom Staples says, "I will change my definition of marriage when God changes his." He is one of those who opposes the same-sex marriage, like other politicians like Rick Perry. Um, it's not just the marriage part. There's also families who are refused the right to adopt like any other Texan. There was a case in 2009 of a lesbian couple who wanted to adopt a child, a 2-year-old boy, orphan, and they were not allowed to because the Texas legislature said they were not legally married when they were legally married in Oklahoma. So Texas also takes away the rights that if you were married, let's say in Vegas, you are no longer married in Texas, which kind of violates your rights as well. But there are people like Judge Rolando Garcia from the U.S. District Court of District in Texas in San Antonio, saying without a rational relation to a legitimate governmental purpose, state-imposed inequality can find no refuge in our United States Constitution. He is one of the few that believes the Constitution of Texas should not take away your rights to marry whoever you please, as long as normal range. The topic of just marriage, our education system on transgender people is very undereducated. There was a survey in Texas that surveyed 113 nursing programs, and they questioned them, asking them who they addressed, if they've ever addressed a transgender person or anything like that. And one question was asked of how much an estimated time they thought in a 4-year nursing program, 2-year nursing program, how long they took to address transgender health, and they said an estimate of 1.6 hours. So not even a full day's worth of lecture on how to address a transgender health, how to properly approach their issue, because obviously it's not the same. So our nurses are not receiving the adequate content and don't understand transgender health or how to compassionately care for this population. And moving from my education, I'll move on to Alex with general education in Texas.
In our last part of our report, we talks about the violation of the rights of our education system. I have recently discovered this activist that was named. So far, I've heard that free rights, but also in terms of discrimination in the educational system. His violation later on led him to harsh consequences that he had to suffer later on in his life. He was also recently held under arrest in his father's after his violation was found out, and he was moved to a prison called Devon Confinement and was held there for a quarter of his life. 15 years. He was also video record himself, confess how sorry he was for the violations of his actions, with a lot of experience, torture, a lot of beatings, in prison, lack of respecting his own rights. And then he was also part of the propaganda to deter public law for being a part of multiple organizations. And after prison, that transformed him into becoming a better person and a better man by supporting the rights of education, which is what the education system as efficient as it is today.
In this presentation, we've learned that human conflict is much more problematic and very, very central to everyday lives than before. By covering all the main topics such as immigration, human trafficking, sex trade, religious conflicts, LGBT rights, and last but not least, the violation of our educational rights, our group has found how destructive these conflicts are in the world, and very specifically South Texas. A lot of immigrants